that minute, it's like that's his mark. It's like beep, and he's like, oh my god, he just takes 2 steps and slides down the fucking mountain, that's a lot of force.
Sure.
In 2 steps to slide down a whole fucking mountain to go attack this other deal. And
I mean, you're in a giant cyborg thing,
right? And physics don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then
we're gonna suspend belief.
Yeah,
you know,
and he gets hit with the two tendrils in his side, and it looks like he's dead. But no, Shinji's not out at this point,
right? Because
that's when he takes that knife and he shoves it straight into the S2 engine and starts just pushing as hard as he can. This is where, somebody raised this to me a long time ago. One of my friends that introduced me to this. He was like, well, having the 3 kids in there, since the wavelengths were off, and it was not just the pilot inside the entry plug, that the aggression from the boys, there was also a little bit of fear, a little bit of aggression, because there's 3 of them, caused kind of more of the, the anger for Shinji almost a little bit, to where he kind of took a little bit of that because he's very empathetic, to be able to pilot that thing anyway.
Sure.
And kind of uses that force to really go after that angel 100%. And that's when they're counting down 25 seconds. 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and then that's when the angel goes cold. It's like he destroys it, and they're just stuck there.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy too. And then that's when it's kind of crazy, because Shinji starts crying at that point, because he's still reluctant to do absolutely anything with this. But yet he's around these other boys that he had to save that just punched him. He even mentioned before that his father's not even there. Why am I even piloting this?
Right.
My father's not even here to watch me do this. So he's still relying on his father.
He's just wanting that approval from his father.
Approval from anybody, but he's not getting approval but he's only getting approval from the women pretty much in his life, which is kind of different from him, because he's
really
never had
just
that.
Masato,
Correct. Yeah. And he's never had that before. He's never had that human interaction. He's never had that motherly kind of figure.
Because it seems like she died pretty early on.
She died, as soon as they were starting the whole Ava program and everything. And you'll find out a little bit later about his mom.
Sure.
But it's one of those things to where he still didn't have that approval, and he's never been around. And then he's just all those emotions. He's going through puberty. There's so many different things that's going on with this kid at this time. And one of our listeners actually did kind of bring it up, that it kind of parallels a little bit of how this guy basically said it was a little bit like Anno, the director, throwing himself into the Shinji character.
Sure.
Which, everybody goes through a lot of crazy stuff whenever they're that young. That's such an impressionistic age that you're looking for impressionable. Yeah, I said impressionistic.
Yeah, that's a cool word. Man.
I just made it up. So
Daniel Webster would be proud.
So they're going through. I think the aggression from them really did kind of spark his more. Just like you can see him unleashing that.
Well, I think that it got to the crux too, where like he had to do something, and he knew that these people, not just like it's more tangible when these people are with you.
Yes,
that they're only going to survive because of you.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he knows that his duty is more important at that point too. He kind of sees it just in a flash, and it's like, I'm not going to run away. I'm going to take this on full force. And the emotion that he has to put into all of that right there causes him to cry at that point. And he's just kind of bawling, and they're just like, "Are you okay?" And then they kind of cut back to the class, and it's about 3 days later or something like that, and he hasn't been back to school. Touji's still sitting there like, oh man, I should have really done that. And Kinsuke's like, whatever the fuck,
I'm a douchebag.
Yeah, he's already mapped the angel and everything like that. Yeah, he's still being a dick, and he's like, well, if you felt really bad about it, you wouldn't have beat him up before the last battle.
Yeah, what a dick, dude.
I know. He instigated the whole thing.
He did.
Yeah,
and obviously playing off Touji's, like about his sister, playing off his emotions, to get it to happen.
Yeah, and and you don't really notice, but none of the other kids are talking about their mom at all, too, in that classroom. Yeah, none of them are really talking about their mom. They're not saying anything. He was talking about his uncle and his dad not being able to be there for his sister.
Sure.
So Touji's, he's a good guy at heart. Again.
Yeah, I think so. You can kind of tell.
Yeah, he's there, and they're all in this classroom for a reason too. They're all around each other for a reason.
Will I find that out later?
Yes, you will.
Okay.
And
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but there's a lot of growth in these episodes right here to kind of introduce you to these main people.
Perfect.
And that's when he's like, here's his number. If you feel so bad, why don't you call him? So like he was ready for it, you know. So he goes to call him, and
how did he get his number?
Exactly, right? Well, I mean, Shinji's got a phone, you know.
Yeah, but do you put your cell phone in the phone book?
Right. Yeah, but he's like a computer hacker type of dude, you know what I mean? So he's all about information technology.
Sure.
So Touji calls, nobody picks up, and he hangs up the phone, and that kind of, you know, that ends the whole episode because it's raining and. Just you don't know what's going on with Shinji at this point because he's still full of emotion. He kind of breaks down at that very end part.
Right.
Overall, this episode is another really good building episode. It doesn't have a lot of slow parts to it. It just kind of hits the action going, and you build that more.
But it does. I was going to say it does balance the action with the character building though, pretty well. I think that this is really. One of the first episodes, and not to say that it didn't build the character of Masato and then like the last episode, anything like that, but this is really the one where you start seeing character being built for all of the characters.
Yes, they're adding in more of them. So you've already seen their introduction in the first couple. They're slowly introducing every other character throughout, too, and then adding his classmates and getting that more the non-pilot people involved with the story.
I'll be honest, I was really surprised that he went to like a school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If he's spent all this time with his sensei learning, you know, I would assume that the natural thing would be for him to just like take classes online or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like, do whatever he's been doing. You know?
Yeah. He's just gonna go ahead and just do.
But now he lives with the drunkard and her penguin, and and so now he goes to school.
Yeah, and now he's in a regular school, like a K through 9 or something.
Yeah, right.
Because he's still probably.
Would you say he's 13, 14?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think they were all born in 2001. I was looking at the screenshot.
So they're 14.
Yeah, I was looking at the screenshot whenever they showed the classmates. And it showed their birth dates. It'd be in like January 23rd and then like September 1st or something like that of 2001.
Okay.
So they were all born about that time.
I didn't catch that, but
yeah,
you've seen it many more times than I have.
Yeah, you got to pause it too. And because that was the first time I paused it on that point. It was like, oh, I got to see.
As I'm experiencing these for the first time, there is no pause.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And then with the cinematography of this episode, they really do kind of show again the scale. They're showing those more drawn out. They're showing Shinji from, again, the camera angle from above, still showing him still kind of weak and not very powerful at that point, even though he's powering one of the biggest weapons that he can. Right. You know, he's still just, his confidence isn't still up at this point. Right. So, which I like the way that the direction goes. There's very few times where they're face head on on a character without somebody being on the side. Which is pretty cool. Dr. Fusky, he's the one that's kind of a little bit cocky, but his is face on.
Right.
Whenever they show him right there, he's like, "That's a waste of taxpayers' money," you know. So you still really kind of feel for Shinji because he's again thrust into this world that he just can't. He can't. He's not really being able to adjust to it that fast. 3 weeks. Into something.
I mean, I don't know what his problem is. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And the first angel attack was 15 years ago, and they even mentioned that. They were like, well, the second attack was 15 years after the first one, so they didn't wait this long to come back again.
Right.
So now there's other wheels turning that we don't know about.
Right.
That's kind of bringing these other angels to light, and they're all coming through, and it seems like they're going to be more often. It's going to be a more often kind of a thing. That, Which, again, you kind of saw Gendo in the first couple of episodes be like, yeah, I already know what's going to happen. This is happening according to a plan. Yeah. It's all part of the plan, and he already knows and how everything's...
He's already got a hypothesis.
Correct. He already knows, and I think Gendo knows a lot more than he really says.
Right.
You know? Overall, the episode was just... I don't know. It was very, very good to show Shinji's reluctance to pilot... the Eva, 100%.
Agreed. I kind of wish the douchebag kid was Gendo's son.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
But take that, both of you. Fuck off.
Yeah, imagine if he was a pilot, though.
No, he wouldn't get to be a pilot. He'd just get to be a douchebag.
Yeah. He'd be the dick in the corner that's not really doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, just instigating the angel to fight the Eva. He's like, hey, I heard he called your mom something. He's like, what?
And then he goes over to the other one. Here's a frying pan.
Yeah. So in this one, you don't really have a lot of those anime moments either.
No, not honestly. That I was going to say that. Unlike the last episode, you didn't have those over the top anime moments.
Correct.
That you've had in,
It's
previous
more
episodes.
Yeah, it's more grounded. It's a little bit more real. It kind of, again, it's more story focused, but it's got the action to really pull you in,
right,
and keep you going. Really kind of can't wait for the next episode because you get to see. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah,
but the next episode really is going to kind of tie a lot of this stuff together.
Cool.
And kind of show you overall. What did you think of this episode?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. This is probably my favorite episode so far, because it did dive a little more into the characters, but there was a lot of action at the same time. I think overall it was just really balanced.
Yes.
Yeah. And I actually think that maybe I cared a little more about Shinji after this episode.
Yeah.
And even Touji.
Yeah.
I saw that, like, okay, well, he's not necessarily a bad kid. He's just dealing with some shit of his own. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Which 14 years old.
You're having to take care of your sister?
Oh,
it's kind of a bad accident at a hospital?
Yeah.
With all the other shit going on?
Yeah.
Put yourself in that situation
for
absolutely. Any of these kids.
Well, you think about what your 14-year-old reaction was to anything.
Yeah, I know.
Because you're like hormones and you're at that portion of your life where you're starting to self-realize a little bit, but that's not necessarily always a good thing.
Right.
Because you're also a little bit of misconception there,
Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
you don't have the full story yet.
Yeah, and you also don't have the life experience for anything.
Right.
And that right there is a big life experience that they're having to go through altogether.
I would say.
Yeah. That's what I like about the show too, is the human interaction for it. It's not just about the big robots. It's not about the big battles or anything like that.
I'll be honest, if it was just that, I probably wouldn't be as excited to watch the next episode.
Correct.
I would just be like, oh, it's another big robot show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're going to be like forming another Zord or something.
Yeah. What our powers combine.
Yeah. And this one, you really get to see what a pilot would go through.
Right.
Or somebody would go through if they were thrust into this kind of a world.
Well, yeah, and I think that you probably, mirroring like real life, you had kids that were 16 years old that went to war.
Right.
And I kind of equate it to that. A lot of, and not even 16-year-old, I'll even say 18-year-old, but, like at that age, when you go into battle, there's generally one of two reactions right away.
Either fight or flight.
Yeah. And he is really caught in the middle of both, and it takes a lot to push him towards the fight part. You know, it's almost like it's instinctive for him to shell up. But when he's pushed, obviously he's pretty badass.
Right. Yeah, and you can really tell that. He's so in sync with his Ava.
Right, which is weird. Like I know they've said, because he's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it took Ray, months or something like that to sync with hers or something.
It was a long time. They alluded to that.
Yeah, that it took her a lot longer than he did. And his first day he's there, he's like, okay, I guess I'm doing this.
I'm gonna pilot this thing.
And again, I guess you can really look at that reluctance for it too, but then also the obligation and the everything else, the emotion is all right there.
Right. And I think by having those things, in a little bit of what do I want to say? Cunning manipulation on Masato's part to build that sense of obligation and responsibility.
Yes.
But to also come and thank him in the last episode and say, these people are living alive basically because of you.
Yeah. Even though she acts really immature, she's super mature.
Yeah.
She's like well above her age range or something like that.
I don't even know how old she is.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
She's obviously old enough to buy some beers.
Yeah.
And have a penguin.
Yeah. So, these first 3 episodes really do kind of set you up for big time for the rest of the series for me. Once I got to this one, I felt the same way that you did. It was like, all right, I can't wait till the next one. I got to watch these. And being in 22 minutes, you really get a lot of information, kind of put on you really fast. But at the same time, it's enough to absorb.
I will say this is, I feel, the episode that's maybe a turning point for me. Like I was totally interested in the first 2 episodes. Don't get me wrong, but mostly